Hey y'all, how you perking? I hope you're perking good. So, people have been asking me some basic questions about tarot and how I read the tarot. In all of my readings that y'all watch, I get the same kinds of questions over and over, and someone suggested I would do a brief little Q&A on it today with y'all, so here I am for that. And so let's go ahead and just start on with the questions. I won't waste any time. We'll just jump right in. I got my little sticky note right here, my little old people help right there. So the first question that I get is, what spread is that? What spread are you using? And by spread, here, let me go pull up this thing. By spread, people are like, oh, are you using like a past, present, future? Or are you using, something that's like this? Or do you have, like people have certain types of spreads that they use, and they're asking me what type of spread is that I use. What you see in my videos is not a spread. I tend to be a very intuitive reader. So there's all different kinds of tarot readers out there, and they have varying mixes of how they read. It usually ranges somewhere from, usually not always, but usually ranges somewhere from people who read like strictly the traditional card readings and can't speak, traditional card meanings with very traditional card spreads. And then there's people who just use the cards looking at it with the pictures, maybe not even knowing the meanings at all, and they're just intuitively sensing what they pick up from the pictures on the cards. And saying some stuff because they're mostly just psychic and they like to have pictorial prompts is all. And that there's people on that end of the spectrum, and there's people all the way in between. I am kind of in the middle, but more towards this side of intuitive reading. I am not like super traditional, all about memorization, things like that. I'm a much more aligned with intuitive reading, but I do know traditional card meanings and things of that nature, so I am kind of in the middle but closer to this side. Hopefully that's helpful. So because of that, the spreads that I use are just me throwing out what I have learned works for me. So I've been doing this for years and years, and when you start out, you just start out kind of trying to figure out some basics, and then you figure out some basics with some intuition, and then figure out some basics with what feels right to me personally. And every time you pull cards, you kind of learn a little bit more about what you like and how you do it. It's just the same with any other kind of skill. Think about any other skill that you all do. You first start out trying to learn something, and as you get more familiar with it and more comfortable with it, you make it more your own. Think about people who are singers that start out really technical, just learning exactly how to do it, and then they start adding their own personal things until it's their own signature way of doing it. Same with cooking and people who do that well. Same with people who, say, play the piano or play some kind of an instrument, and they're just first learning scales and basics, and then they start learning what kind of songs do I like, and then they start learning how do I put my own rhythm and my own flair to where it has my own personality, my own signature sound in it. It's very similar. Reading tarot is like practicing a skill, and it has those same tenets to it. So hopefully that makes sense and answers some questions that I've been getting asked. A lot of people are saying, why do you shuffle like that? Like most people just shuffle, and then you see a tarot card reader shuffle, and then they're just like, okay, this, and they just pick off, the top, always picking off from the top. And they say, why do you shuffle and then you do like this until you feel like you have the right one and put it down there. What's that about? That's not traditional. Why do you do it like that? And again, basically the same answer as I said in the last question, because intuitively that's just what has started happening for me. You know, you practice it lots of different ways. You try a lot of different ways, and then you start finding what feels right to you. So, let me put myself back in focus. Lord, excuse no makeup. Didn't feel like it. So, here you go. You just get to look at it, and that's what it is. You don't like it? Oh, well, crap. You don't like it, and it's all up in your face. Good thing it's super exposed and washed out. So, moving right along. You can tell I've been in a conference all day long, virtual, but still a conference nonetheless. So that's why I do it that way. Same with the question that I've been asking, why so many clarifiers? So once again, y'all see me all the time pulling cards where I'll have, you know, I'll have 6 like this. And then you'll see me say, let me get some clarifiers. And I'll start pulling some on certain ones, maybe not on all of them, maybe just on some of them. You know, I'll pull some clarifiers. And I've had people say, well, why are you pulling so many clarifiers? It looks like you're trying to get the cards to say what you want them to say. And that's why you're pulling so many clarifiers. I think it's because I have made the mistake of using the term clarifiers when I'm talking about those cards that I pull on top. Because traditionally, when you use the word clarifier, what you mean is that you don't quite understand the meaning of the card that's down in the context that you have it, and you want to get some clarification on the card. Well, when I'm doing it, what I mean is I have a storyline here with these 6 core cards, but I want context on each pieces of this story. So if the story is Mary had a little lamb, and I want to know, okay, well, what about this lamb? What's the lamb look like? What's its name? You know, when did it last have its period or something like that, y'all? I'm just sorry. It's been a day, but you know, if I just want more context on this damn lamb, then I'm gonna pull some extra cards on the lamb and figure out some more context about the lamb. You know, I could do that to Mary too. I could say, okay, I want more context on Mary. You know, what's Mary like? What, you know, give me some more information on Mary. Maybe some information about the people in her life. Maybe some information about, you know, whether or not she likes to flat iron her hair after she showers. You know, whatever. Obviously, I'm being, you know, extra with my explanations here, and the cards aren't going to tell you that kind of information, but you know what I mean. You get what I mean. You've seen my videos and you see what I mean about getting extra context. So when I say pulling clarifiers, what I'm talking about is getting extra context on the storyline that we already have out. So that's why I pull all the extras on there. Another question that I get, here we go again. Somebody says, you know, oh, well, look at her cards that she has here. You know, I wonder if we had somebody else who read tarot, if they, you know, if they just looked at her cards and watched the video without sound, I wonder how close their readings would be together. And that question really comes from a place of people wanting to have inter-rater reliability. Is kind of what we call it in a more scientific world, where, you know, oh, we know it's legit because everybody who reads it would have generally the same result. So that's how we know it's not all a sham. Well, the problem with that is, once again, didn't we already talk about this, that this is not a scientific, perfectly scheduled out type of practice. This is a spiritual practice, and one thing we know about spirituality is it's different for everybody. It's personalized for everybody. There's a lot of different beliefs, and everybody has their own personal flair, their own personal brand of spirituality. And what we also know about spirituality is the scientific community doesn't tend to feel like it can be explained too well by that. So I see people, wanting to be able to say something like that, oh, will they be able to read the exact same way as you? And the answer is no. That wouldn't be the sign of whether or not somebody is accurate. Can somebody else read their spread the exact same way? No. Because, like we said, it's probably about, if I had to put percentages on it for like how I read tarot, I would say for me personally, it's about 30% up to the meanings of the actual cards, and about 70% up to my intuition, what's screaming at me, what kind of feeling I get from it, what thought I get from it, what pictures in my mind's eye I get from it, what words in my mind's ear come up from it, and I go accordingly. Some people may agree with that way of doing it. Some people may disagree with that way of doing it. What tells me whether or not I am doing it right for me is, does it feel right the way I'm doing it? Does it feel like a good fit the way I'm doing it? Like, does it feel like it fits in my own, alignment, my own personal method? Does it feel like it fits? And then 3, do I get accurate results from it? And if my answer is yes on all 3, then I don't worry about how other people read it or what other people would say or think about it, because I know this is working for me. It feels right, it fits well, and I'm getting accurate results from it. So this is my personal way. And it's okay to have variation on that. And it's okay to wish people would read it all the same way to make it easier and to make it make sense and to fit some beautiful scientific algorithm, but it's just not gonna. It's just not gonna. Another kind of thing that I would want to note, this wasn't a question necessarily from y'all, but it was something that's come up enough that it's worth mentioning, is that a lot of people are saying, ooh, do a video on this and do a video on that, and well, what about this and what about that, and tarot can be very fun and very entertaining. Don't get me wrong. That's, I try to have some ways to enjoy it and some ways to make it entertaining when I do tarot. That's a big part of what I like about it. But overall, remember, it is a divination tool. It means that when you're doing tarot, you are channeling the divine. You are channeling messages and information, so you are intensely focused, and you have all of your intuitive energy vessels open, your emotional energy vessels open. You are completely open, completely raw, taking in a lot of things that you're seeing, that you're feeling, that's coming up in your mind, everything all at once. And it's a lot of activity to be going through a body. I'll sweat pretty bad when I'm reading cards, because it's just a lot. It's like a spiritual workout, to do that. And think about workouts when you're doing physical workouts and how intense they are and how much you're focusing and putting into that. And this is like a spiritual workout. So it's something that you can't just do all the time, because what would happen if you did physical workouts all the time? You'd get tired. You'd make your muscles sore. You would need to replenish your electrolytes and your water and your protein. You'd have to do rest and have self-care. So you have to do all of those things with tarot as well. When you do a spiritual workout, you have to do the spiritual hygiene with it, because it's about balance and it's about self-care. So before, I was doing probably about 3 hours of tarot a week. And then once I did this Dramageddon stuff and my channel got 3,000 subscribers bigger than it was before, which I'm very happy with and proud of and appreciative for. Please don't get me wrong there. I love having you. But I went from doing about 3 hours of tarot a week to about 12 hours of tarot a week. So think about someone who used to go to the gym 3 hours a week, and then overnight, the very next week, they went to the gym 12 hours. And think of what that would do to their bodies. And that's kind of what I've been like, trying to figure out and get a balance from. So if I ever take a little bit to do some videos, it's because I know I only have so much energy to be able to spend on tarot at a time, and I'm going to prioritize my private sessions because those are people who paid to have a reading from me, and I'm not going to give them some wiped out, drained, pathetic person that can't accurately read cards. You know, ethically, I'm going to give them my best self, so I prioritize them. But absolutely, I plan to do several videos a week, as always. That's what I'm hoping to do. And I am hoping that this video answers a lot of those kind of common questions that's been coming up during most of my readings. So you do need to cleanse yourself. You do need to clear yourself. You do need to pray, meditate, all those kind of things that would be considered spiritual hygiene to make sure that you're not burning yourself out and wearing out your muscles spiritually. And so, you know, even if this is fun and entertaining, it's still a spiritual practice, and it's not a party trick. So there is some form of taking it seriously. At least for me, I take it seriously. So there's going to be certain things that I may decide not to read on because I feel like there's a boundary there. For example, I'm not ever going to do a reading to say, when will Tati get pregnant? Is Tati pregnant? Because that's something I see in the comments a lot. For me, that hits my own personal boundary of I don't want to ask the card something like that. And that brings me to one last question. People worry when you're asking the cards, like, about what you're going to get, or can you get this or that. There's certain things you just don't ask the cards. You don't ask, when am I or somebody else going to die, and how, and stuff like that. You don't ask certain things like that of the cards. There's a certain phrase called GIGO, G-I-G-O, and that stands for garbage in, garbage out. So if you put garbage into this practice, you're going to get garbage out of this practice. That's what happens. And since this is a spiritual practice and you're asking and channeling this information from your guides, there's going to be certain times where you hit a wall and you don't get an answer for it. And it doesn't mean you're a bad tarot reader if you don't. It doesn't mean any kind of thing. It just means here you can have this information because this information is something that feels okay to put out into the world right now. But no, we're not going to give all this information. You can't just use the tarot to find people's social security numbers. You can't use the tarot to find winning lottery numbers. You know, you just don't. And I know that this doesn't make sense for all the people who have very, left brain oriented, like specific scientific ways of thinking about things. It could sound like woo-woo and cop-outs and stuff like that. And I understand that. I can appreciate that. My day job is very science heavy, so I have had plenty of time to argue within myself about all of this woo-woo stuff personally, trust me. And I've just had to come to terms with the fact that this is what it is, and just because I personally can't explain it all away and make it make sense right now by myself doesn't mean that there's not something to it, and it doesn't mean that it's not worth exploring and working into, and who knows what we might find out in the decades and the decades to come as thought progresses and science progresses and spirituality progresses and all of these advances take place. Who knows what else we'll learn about the connections between these things. So I think everybody that has an open mind as you watch my videos, and has an open mind to understanding that every reader has their own process, and that this stuff is not always going to make perfect little sense, and that there's going to always be more questions than there are answers. I'm just really grateful for y'all to ride the ride with me as I go through it. So far, I have a pretty good track record with these readings. And God willing, it'll keep going that way if the creek don't rise. So, those are the questions that y'all have been asking me mostly, and I wanted to be able to get at those today. I hope it was helpful. If you have other questions, then please feel free to write them in the comments below. I will read them. I will make a list of the most common classifications of questions to do on the next one, and see if we can do an updated one later down the road. And then, of course, I'll get back into doing some readings real soon. Next couple of days, I'll come back with the cards and we'll look into something else together. So, anywho, I need to jump on off here, do another private reading with someone. And, y'all, just don't be a stranger. Come back and see me. Right here. Come back and see me. Maybe next time I'll put some makeup on for you. And I'll talk at you later, y'all. Bye.